If you have been frustrated with silver, well, I understand and can sympathize. I've been paying attention to the markets for a long time. However, I want to give you some hope in this video and hopefully convince you to not be so jaded about this metal. Let's get right into it as we explore. I am bullish on silver and have been for the past 5 years since I started making year-end predictions. Have been wrong, have been off, have been short for 4 out of those 5 years. And so nonetheless, here we are now in 2025. My bullish prediction for silver is $36. And now, after what I'm about to share with you now, I believe it now more than ever that we're going to get there. It's going to be frustrating, and we have to be patient. We also have to keep things in perspective. I'm going to get into that in a moment. Now, if you hate silver, you're probably not wanting to buy any silver right now. But nonetheless, if you like gold, well, check out Summit Metals. But also, if you do believe in silver, check out Summit Metals as well. They have competitive prices and great service, and they are constantly improving and upgrading their website and their back-end processes, and they're growing very, very fast. So check them out at summitmetals.com. So if you look at a chart, and I like to look at macro trends, they've got, I think, just some good data that goes all the way back, about 120 years or so. But let's just go back to 2020. Of course, you know what happened in 2020. Everything got smashed down, including silver. In fact, silver fell below $12 an ounce briefly. But of course, they average it out through the course of time there, and the low they show there is $17.60, and that's an average through a couple of days because it only went there briefly. I think maybe one day it was there, then it snapped back. But nonetheless, that is one gauge, one metric, which was an anomaly because of the flash crash that we saw there and little mini recession that occurred out of that. And then, of course, the Fed injected a bunch of money into the system. That's quantitative easing on steroids. And then we saw everything kind of come back. And silver, in the time the silver squeeze movement came back up, well, silver went above $35 an ounce when adjusted for inflation. And then we saw inflation really kind of kick in, the next year, and we saw a lot happen over the course of time. But overall, silver is up and performing quite well over the past 4 or 5 years here. The next anomaly was in August of 2022 when silver did go below $20 an ounce. That was the last time that happened. And of course, in the last decade, we did see silver regularly trade below $20 an ounce. I had somebody comment, and of course, I didn't really fact check them, but another member of the community did, because I sort of spoke to it off the cuff. But he said 10 years ago, silver was $33 an ounce, and here we are, we sit at $33 an ounce. Well, he probably should have went back to back in 2012. Or so, because that's about the beginning of 2013, which is when this channel started. So this channel started about 12 years ago, and so therefore, if you take from the time this channel started to where it is now, silver really hasn't done anything. It hasn't gone beyond that. But that's because it was coming off the high that we saw in 2011 and 12, those highs, and was just falling and cascading down and on the way down. And so therefore, here we are back again. But we saw a lot of lulls during that time, and silver was stagnant for a long while. Notwithstanding, there was markets indicators and things that were going on in the silver market, especially where they were producing a lot of silver. But since for the last 5 years now, things have been different, and I'm going to get into that in a moment. But just looking at the price and how it's performed, especially since of August of 2022, silver for the most part has gone up. There has been times and little dips and measures, but it has done very well since then. So if you've been stacking the last 3 years or so, you have done well with silver. In fact, it has outperformed inflation. And so therefore, you can't say that silver has been stagnant and not done much. And in reality, it's about holding long term. And if you can take any two dates and make any asset look horrible or any asset look really well. Case in point with that comment, if we go back to March or January of 2013 and bought all of our silver then, and then come back here now in 2025 in May, well, and then you look at it, it's the same price. In fact, really, you've lost when you take into account with inflation. But in reality, if you look at how it has done, that's adjusted for inflation. You've lost only a little bit, a couple of dollars maybe. And so, therefore, it's about perspective. Perspective is everything. What do we say about silver? Silver is not there to get you rich. It is a savings vehicle. It is a way to protect your wealth. That's it. Because one thing is for sure, this dollar here in 2025 is very different than the dollar back in March of 2013. Very different. It's lost a lot of value since then. Silver has maintained its value. And so therefore, silver wins in that regard because there's no unrealistic expectations there. So that is the past. That is what silver has done. And to me, that's the best argument for what silver has done over those years. And especially with what we've been seeing that has contributed to silver's price rising. Inflation and silver demand. Silver is an industrial metal more so than a monetary metal. I believe silver is money. It's dormant money. It's commodity money, if you will. But it is also an industrial metal and reacts as such. There's a new report that has come out that really puts some perspective as to what is going on there with silver. And what we've been seeing here in the last 5 years has been remarkable. Even the most conservative prognosticators say that silver's demand is increasing. And if it's not overtaken supply, it soon will. They all believe that. Everybody is in agreement there about that. And some of the more, there's an analyst over here at the London Stock Exchange Group, Debajit Shaha, who gives a report about silver demand in photovoltaics to leapfrog in the next 5 years. This is fascinating. It will become one of the most widely used sources of electricity over the past 2 decades. It has. In the last 5 years, industry has experienced exponential growth, making solar energy increasingly competitive with other renewables such as hydropower and wind. And according to the International Energy Agency, solar energy is projected to surpass all other renewable energy sources by 2030. And this actually kind of shocks and surprises me because I thought we were kind of near peak solar production, but they say it's going to go even more. A lot of it is due to the signing of the Paris Climate Accords. This agreement, even though the United States has gone out of it, many other nations around the world are still a part of it. And even though the United States has taken itself out of it, which I think was a good decision, by the way, solar is picking up everywhere anyway here in the United States. There's solar farms popping up in many different areas across the nation right now. And that's a good sign for silver and silver's demand. And even though I am a proponent of silver, I own solar panels, but it has its own set of issues. And power companies having to deal with it, it's not as good as you may think in that regard. But nonetheless, there is still a lot of benefits to it, and I think the benefits overall outweigh the negative, and how power companies harness it and maintain it and store it is going to be another matter, and that will get better with time. Storing the energy is going to require silver as well in the battery technology and the like. And so nonetheless, what began with rooftop solar installations has expanded into the development of large-scale solar parks, as we've talked about. And in the past 2 years, China has installed an impressive 470 gigawatts of solar power, far exceeding its total capacity from the previous decade. Major European economies, led by Germany, and at 89 gigawatt during the same period, while the U.S. has installed 81 gigawatts. Emerging markets such as India and Brazil are also making rapid advancement in solar capacity expansion. China is overproducing, by the way. I talked about that in previous videos. But the demand is crazy in terms of how much silver is going to be needed for it. They say by 2030, it's going to be about 550 million ounces. And right now, in 2025, it's about 275 million ounces. And so this is quite exceptional and pretty amazing and actually surprising to me. But even if it's half of that, even if it's half of what they project, that's still a major increase. And that means silver demand is going to definitely overtake supply if mining doesn't really pick up. Now, there are some projects out there that are, talked about, like in Poland. They apparently found a huge stockpile of silver underground resources that can, in mining and other aspects, will likely be done to meet that demand. Silver is mined mostly as a byproduct of other metals. So if those other industries do well, you will see more silver being mined. But you could see, essentially, if silver's price goes up, more mining that will occur as a primary silver mining will start to pick up again. We'll see. Just depends. But you've got that. And, of course, I talked about recently the Samsung silver solid-state batteries that look promising. Of course, we don't know really for sure exactly when that technology is going to become available. It will become available first in a very limited fashion, they say, by late 2026 or 2027. But still, it's promising. But until we actually see it, it's another matter. So we'll take it from there. But all the indicators mean that that technology is essentially recession-proof from the Paris Climate Accords and solar and the battery technology. Because if they can do it efficiently with solid-state batteries, that's going to have widespread use, maybe even beyond automobiles at first. Or here later as well. If it just depends about scalability. If it's scalable downward to be utilized for other applications, especially electronics, such as your phones, tablets, computers, and the like, it's a game changer. I think it's a big game changer. Nonetheless, even if you pan that out a couple of years, or it doesn't come totally into fruition, it still means there's going to be demand for silver that's going to keep up, and it's going to be somewhat recession-proof. There's going to be things that will still be pushing against silver, and I understand that. I don't think silver is going to necessarily soar because of this, but I believe that silver is going to continue to climb up in price. So if you hate silver, watch what happens. I think we're going to still continue to see silver demand stay where it is or pick up at the very least. And I'm being very modest in my analysis here because I think it's really about performing against factors like inflation, geopolitics, and the like, and understanding the factors that can push against silver's price. Notwithstanding, we have seen it in the past 3 years, I think, outperform inflation. And that's a good sign. And I think a lot of it is because of the increased demand that we've been seeing over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think that's going to continue. And I think to some degree it'll be recession resistant at the very least. That's going to bode well for the price over the course of time. But we have to be patient, and we have to understand this channel does talk about market moves from day to day, but it keeps in perspective the overall long-term performance. And I always remind myself to take a look at a chart to see how it's performed, adjusted with inflation. And I think you do that and you see, yes, there's been some volatility, but if you've been stacking for a couple of years, you've done quite well. It's a long-term proposition, and I've been doing it long enough, and I'm telling you that I have not lost a dime on any of my silver. Number one, because I haven't sold it, and number two, because I've held it. The silver that I bought above the price where I paid now, which is very few and far between, has already outperformed. So there you go. So I hope this encourages you, maybe convinces some of you to hang in there with silver. I'm not telling you to go out and buy a whole bunch of it, by the way. I think you ought to be prudent. And even though I'm sponsored by a bullion dealer, I think it's prudent for us to look at our own circumstances and situations. It's not about fear-mongering. It's about just looking at reality with silver. I want to be real with silver because that's the best way so that people don't have unrealistic expectations. That's what it's about. Silver will be what it has been for thousands of years. It'll be wealth that is constant and really is proving itself to be the case in spite of efforts to suppress it or manipulate it. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. Hope you found this video informative, insightful, and educational. Would like to extend a multitude of gratitude to each and every one of you for taking the time to watch and encourage you to please rate, share, comment, and subscribe.